Okay, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to another week of EECS 440. It's good to see you. There aren't too many of you in person here. That is totally fine. Let's go ahead and get to it. So if you look at where we are, there is just not that much of the semester left. We are cruising, and the finish line is in sight just beyond a hill or two. We have one more week. Actually, we only have a couple more days of Project 2. Then next week, Monday, we're going to start our final project. That only lasts 4 weeks. That is it. Short project. And then you're out of here, okay? So we got about 5 weeks remaining of this semester. And hopefully you'll enjoy getting total control soon. So starting with next week, starting with your Project 3, you are going to get to make whatever you want to make. You're going to get to choose whatever technology you want to use. And so finally, the training wheels will completely come off and you can make whatever you want to. The only problem is you're only going to have 4 weeks to do it. And so we're going to have to be very careful to keep our scope manageable so that we don't bite off more than we can chew. If you look, we have another cool XR company today. This is a company that's based out of Singapore, an XR startup that is all about industrial processes and efficiency. So how can we make our plants safer? How do we make manufacturing more efficient? How do we teach people, right? Education is such a big deal in XR. So we have Augmented out of Singapore. Digitize your workflows and upskill your technicians. It's a software platform for building and deploying digital workflows for frontline workers on mobile devices. Now, this used to also say XR devices, and actually you can see an XR device right here, the glasses being worn. I'm not exactly sure what kind of glasses these are, but it seems that it might have an internal-facing camera because it's actually got this little thing back here. I'd be surprised if that wasn't a camera to kind of track where the pupils are looking. A bit later, I'll show you some really cool devices that can do that kind of thing. Here we have a video. It says convert manual processes into digital SOPs. I don't entirely know what SOP stands for, but basically you have this device that your plant worker is holding, or maybe they are viewing a digital display via their glasses, or one of the workers there had a phone holder on their elbow so that they can look at their phone display while maintaining both of their hands. Let me see if we can get this video to hurry up here. I think we came into it halfway. The basic idea here is that you have some sort of expensive or dangerous process in your facility for inspecting equipment, for getting things to run, and you can create this dashboard online completely. You can create this series of steps, images, videos, all that stuff. You can organize stuff, you can order stuff, and then you can have this all get displayed at the right moments and basically tell the workers what to do next. You can play audio at a certain time, and so what should you press, right? What should you avoid pressing? Basically, you just have some sort of workflow, some sort of common pattern, and this is how you're going to help people in the field actually figure this stuff out. Probably a lot more effective than just reading a textbook beforehand and then trying to remember all of that as you're in front of the machine. Here we can deliver information to you as you are actually at the machine while keeping both of your hands free. Pretty powerful stuff. It looks like their website is maybe starting to fall apart because I think these are meant to be GIFs or videos or some images. But it looks like they have quite a few different companies working with them. They've got Shell, they've got Lufthansa, right? Some pretty recognizable names. And so this is pretty impressive. It looks like they don't have a whole lot of information about what they charge to use this software, but it looks like you can contact them if you are interested. In any case, this is the kind of XR usage that isn't the sexiest in the world, right? But it's another niche use case that looks like it could gain, maybe 5 to 10% productivity bump via XR. So pretty cool stuff. It's very likely that this company might have used AR. I remember years ago in their website, they had a lot of augmented reality and metaverse advertising and imagery in their website. It looks like they kind of pivoted to be more of a general purpose process management software with some XR stuff remaining. But it's a very common thing that a startup will, for instance, mention Web3, even though they don't really intend to use Web3. I've been talking with some studio leadership around Ann Arbor, and I've been told, I kid you not, that there are a lot of companies that just mention a hype wave technology like generative AI, LLMs. They just start slapping it everywhere over their website, even when they have no intention to use it. Why do they do this?
Stay trendy.
Stay trendy. Why do you need to stay trendy?
Just so you're not behind on.
Yeah, in a way, okay? Here's the actual situation. We'll talk a little bit more about this today. Investors want to invest in the new thing, okay? Many of them don't look very deeply into the fundamentals of the company or the business. They simply want a big collection of Web3 or metaverse or generative AI companies in their portfolio. And whether or not any one of them succeeds isn't really interesting to them. They know that if they have 100 metaverse companies they're supporting, maybe 1 or 2 will hit it big, and the rest will die. They're totally fine with those odds because they're looking to get the next Twitter or Facebook or whatever, and that's going to pay for all of the failures 100 times over. So this is also the kind of thing you see in creative industries a lot. You see a lot of AAA game companies these days that are making a ton of games trying to get that Fortnite money. Now, most of these games will fail, many of them in spectacular fashion, but if they even get one Fortnite or a fraction, a miniature Fortnite, that will pay for all their efforts many times over. And so companies take those odds and they gamble. Okay. Anyway, so just keep this in mind. Later on in the course, we'll talk about companies. We'll talk about industry, the XR industry, the game dev industry. It's a really, really fun talk. It's about ecosystems. It's about value chains. And the way that companies act is usually pretty easy to predict. So we'll talk a little bit about that. And we'll talk about that also today because we have a really fun, I think, very satisfying lecture today called Niche is Enough. And it's entirely this idea. Depending on the size of your team, you can afford to target a small niche and solve those problems for that smaller audience. But if you are Facebook, if you are Mark Zuckerberg, you can't be happy to just make another VR chat. The only way it's going to move the needle for you and your investors and your stakeholders is if everyone is living in the metaverse. If it literally becomes Ready Player One, that's what he has to shoot for, even if he likes niches. Okay, some announcements. I saw this recently, an average court case in Ohio. If you've ever been to Ohio, then you know this is really, this is how things happen down there. I think that means guilty, or does it mean not guilty? I don't quite know. What I do know is that at the end of this video, there's one frame in which the animation glitches. And this is something that's really for the 298 students. But hold on, there you go. Did you see that one frame at the very end? There are a lot of video games, actually. And I want to say, for some reason, they're always made by Ubisoft. that have a one-frame glitch. It's like an off-by-one error in your C++ program, your EECS-280 program, but it's in the world of animation. It's an off-by-one-frame glitch where most of it looks fine, but if you're really paying attention, you see things glitch right at the beginning or right at the end. Things don't look quite right. So, all right, a quick announcement as well. As we start getting into Project 3, which we'll finish Project 2 on Wednesday, and on Monday we'll start Project 3. As we start getting into Project 3, everyone is going to be working on different stuff. Different projects, you have different needs. We don't know if you're AR or VR, Unity or Unreal. And so the course and its lecture topics will become a little bit less about coding together and implementing things. And it's going to become a bit higher level, a bit more general. We're going to talk about kind of larger topics that might affect you in your career. Things like XR and its impact on education, the education field. We'll talk about XR in business. This is a really, really important talk. If you end up in any sort of big team that you don't run yourself, then this is a big deal. A quick thing for you. If you work at Amazon and you work in Amazon Web Services, their biggest moneymaker, how do you feel about your job security generally, relative to everyone else at Amazon? You're feeling pretty good. Your team makes a ton of money. It is the golden goose that's laying the golden eggs for Jeff Bezos. How do you feel if you are on the Amazon Alexa team? A team that has never made any money. A team that was Jeff Bezos' baby, and Jeff Bezos recently left the company. How do you feel? You don't feel so good, okay? So that's what we call the value chain. And you might get cut out of the value chain. This is what happened to Blockbuster, if you remember them. This is what happened to GameStop. And GameStop is in the middle of their demise right now. They're approaching the end. Why? Because they're a video game retailer in a world where everyone gets their games digitally. Not just the customers love digital games, the publishers, the developers love digital games. Why? Because they get a much bigger cut of the value flowing down from the customer. So they want to cut GameStop right out, and GameStop is helpless to stop them. Anyway, there are a lot of really important business-related concepts you should understand if you are going to go get your first job, even if you're going to join academia. Okay? I am very aware that game development is not a big thing on campus. I am a kind of a big fish, but in a very small pond, and I have to make sure this pond is taken care of, and that can be a bit hard, okay, if you are on a small team that's not really core to the mission of the institution, whether that's a company or whether that's a business. We're going to talk about things like XR and art. So can you use these topics, XR and game development, for things other than just making money? Can we use these things for another purpose beyond just having fun? A question I always love to ask is, are games meant to be fun? I wouldn't blame you for saying yes, and I think you'd say yes and you'd be largely correct. But can games be unfun? Would someone ever design a game or an XR experience, a VR experience, to be nausea-inducing, to make you sick to your stomach on purpose? Would they ever have a reason to do this? And that's the kind of question we ask ourselves and we study when we study XR and art, okay? So we're going to do that. These higher level topics are going to come up, and we're going to explore them during our lectures for the remainder of the semester. So I hope you look forward to it. It is a fun time. Okay. Your backpacking begins on Wednesday, all right? I think it begins on Wednesday the 18th. It is coming up very quickly. And so hopefully, if you have another semester here at University of Michigan, you're starting to think about what courses you want to take. Make the most of your time at Michigan. A lot of people don't, and it is only when they leave that they realize the incredible opportunity that college afforded to them. So don't let that be you. I need to do some shilling, and I'm going to do some shilling for you in this course. because I've got some other courses. And if you liked EECS 440, if you thought it was a decent time, EECS 498 Game Engine Architecture is going to take your knowledge of game engines to a completely different level. Your knowledge of C++, your general knowledge of programming, your general programming skill. I think several of you are in EECS 498 right now, actually. And so I hope you're having a good time. But for those of you who aren't in game engine architecture, it is an upper-level CS course. It is only offered once per year in the winter. And this is a course in which you build your own game engine from scratch. You start in C++, you start in an EECS 280 style text adventure game, which you can kind of see right here. We then make that externalized. We take the characters, we take the map, we externalize it so that players can change the map, change the dialogue, change the game. And then we introduce 2D artwork. We make that a continuous game, so no longer grid-based, but continuous. We add things like physics, and then we make a truly expressive 2D game engine by introducing Lua on top of our high-performance C++ core. And so you'll get a chance to write, for the very first time maybe, a multi-language program, a program that combines C++ with Lua. I mean, it's quite an experience. You gain a lot of power when you do this. You'll learn about data-oriented programming toward the end of the course, and you'll learn how to make your code run really, really fast, but also in a very expressive way. So a pretty cool course. You can learn a lot more about it. By checking out the EECS 404 syllabus. That's what the course will be named from here on out, EECS 404. In fact, I should actually just change this right now. And you can learn a lot more about the course at EECS404.com if you want to. There's also a bunch of fun hidden mini games around on all my websites, so hopefully you enjoy them, and you can figure out if this course might be a good fit for you. Okay? It is a challenging course, but I think you are handsomely rewarded for that challenge. You gain a ton of additional knowledge and a gigantic 10-week-long C++ portfolio piece. And so it could be a great time. For those of you who are really into art and visuals and aesthetics, right? You love packing your experiences with emotion. You love great characters and environments and objects. EECS 298 is a fairly new course. We're going to be launching it for the second time. It also runs in the falls only. Actually, wait a second. You can't take EECS 404 next semester, can you? It's only in winter, so you'll have to wait an entire year for that, unfortunately, but it will still be there for you. I'm planning to teach it every winter. Here's a course that you might actually consider for next semester, EECS 298, 3D Technical Art and Animation. If I stutter at all today, or if my thoughts seem a bit scattered, if I'm a little bit slow in my speech patterns, it's because I was up at about 4 to 5 a.m. last night, and I can prove it. Let me see here. 4:32 a.m. I'm printing out these posters that I made for the course, and I'm posting them all around campus, at least North Campus. And my goodness, are there a lot of places to post things. And then I have to wake up at 8 to come in for 494, and I just finished posting these all over Stamps, School of Art and Design, okay? I'm told these things don't get taken down very often, so hopefully that's the case, because I do not want to be posting this stuff like every week. That would stink. That would be so nasty. Hopefully a lot of people take the course. It was super fun last semester. We had all sorts of people making great objects and great characters. You can kind of see what we're making in this course via this little game right here. Now, I didn't make this character model. This is Princess Peach from Mario Kart 8. Fantastic character model, but I did animate her, rig her up, so that we could give her great animations. We also introduced things like the dynamic physics, dynamic hair. You can see that her dress moves a little bit as she does and as she jumps around. It brings the character to life in a really, really cool way. Okay, and so you in this course will learn how to model your own characters and to create your own objects, create your own environments, and all sorts of good stuff. You will also, if you look in the syllabus, you will learn how to do things like 3D printing and photogrammetry. If you've never 3D printed something before, it is awesome. It's extremely fun. Sometimes things don't work out and the model just goes crazy, but usually it's just fine. And this is a moderate workload course, so it's a really great course to kind of slip into a more difficult semester or a moderate workload semester. It is flex tech credit, and it depends what department you're in and what major you're in, but every department seems to have some moderately useful credit type that the course works for. For LSA students, apparently it's like a creative course, whatever that means. For STAMP students, it's considered an elective course, whatever that means. And you can learn more about the course in this syllabus or just ask me if you want to. I think, did anyone in here take the course? Yeah, I think we had like 120 students last semester, and so it was a big course. A lot of people had a great time, and so hopefully you will too. And yeah, if you ever want to, so here's the thing. A lot of people learn how to use Unity and they learn how to use Unreal, but they can't actually create their own characters from scratch. They can't create their own objects, and often when you go to sketchfab.com, you'll discover that like 90% of the models out there on the internet are scuffed. Okay, there's something nasty, broken about them. You'll grab a model from the internet, you'll bring it into Unity, and that thing is like inverted. You're like seeing the insides of the model, and you're like, what is going on with this? Often, someone will accidentally leave in a light in the model or a camera in the model, and then it will take over your project and ruin things. Sometimes you have to go into a character and you actually have to change something. Or you might say, hey, this Peach model's awesome, but I want to remove her crown, okay, for like a story reason or something like that. Well, with 298, you learn how to make all this work and how to integrate characters and models cleanly in a beautiful fashion and quickly into a game engine. And that is not a trivial thing to do. Even my EECS 494 students, who are masters of Unity, often don't know how to do that. And so I would encourage you to, if you consider yourself an engineer, this is a technical art course. It's going to be very techy. Okay? And you're going to learn what is a character under the hood. What are all these file formats doing? How can I fix characters? What's actually happening when you have something 3D in a game or a film? Okay? And so, anyway, highly recommended for people who are considering a career in visualization, animation, or game dev. And people really liked this course last semester. So hopefully, hopefully people will like it this coming semester. I made the course a bit easier, and we fixed a bunch of stuff. EECS 494 is available next semester. If you haven't taken it, this is the main game dev course at the University of Michigan. You will learn how to use Unity at a professional level. We start you off by having you remake Legend of Zelda or Metroid, the old classic games. Not only that, though, you remake the game, and then you also add some additional features. So you've probably seen Legend of Zelda like this, but you haven't seen it with a motorbike. And so this is a great course for improving your engineering knowledge in general, because you work on very big projects with a team. You will learn how to get much better at C# and Unity, and you will also learn a lot of UX and game design fundamentals to make sure that your game doesn't just run, but that it is fun, okay? And those are very different, very difficult challenges. This is a difficult course, but you learn a lot, and I'm always trying to make it easier. And so it's not nearly as intimidating as it used to be. But yeah, you can check out some of the projects at EECS494.com. You can see the student projects here, well, some of them. Some of them have a really fun trailer. I'll show you this one, just because I really like this trailer. Let's take a look. So not only is this a great trailer, but I love to talk about this game because the team did a really excellent thing from a game design perspective. In this game, all the players are holding money, and you want to know who is holding money because you want to shoot them so that their money flies out. You could grab it and then cash it in for points. Now, the team had a problem. At first, they put the money each player was holding at the top of the screen. Numbers, right? It's basic UI, kind of like a health meter saying 100 or 90 or something. This is a very common way to do it, but it caused a problem. Why? Because the gameplay is happening in the middle of the screen and no one in a fast-paced game has time to look at the top of the screen, figure out which player is which, and then correlate that number up there with the person that they're thinking of shooting. So the team had a brilliant idea. They said, we're going to take that information out of the UI. We're going to embed it in the game world itself, into the scene. And so they decided to put the money on top of the ship instead. Now, the more money you collect, the more of a visual target you become, which is perfect. The players no longer need to take their eyes up to the top of the screen. They can focus on the action at all times. And when you take damage, it is beautiful and glorious. You see the money fly everywhere. So it's super fun to hit someone, and it's also fun and a bit devastating to get hit, okay? Fantastic, fantastic idea. I'm the one who gave it to them because I made a very similar game when I was an undergrad in Wolverine Soft, and that's how I solved that problem as well. But you can check out all the cool games here. 494 is not just about game dev. It will make you a much better engineer in general. So it's a capstone course. It will not count as an upper-level CS if you take it. And so keep that in mind, okay? You can learn a lot more at EECS494.com. Wolverine Soft Studio is always, have you ever heard of Solar Car? So did you know that students join the Solar Car team and they get course credit for that? Well, you can join the Solar Car team of game dev if you want to. You can make big games on a team of up to 30 people sometimes, and you can make a game, you can release it on Steam and itch.io, you can learn about how big game studios manage themselves, and that is going to get you course credit. You can get from 2 to I think 5 credits if you want to, and it's a really, really fun time, okay? And you'll learn a lot as well. This is totally a student-run game studio, so the faculty have no involvement pretty much except for grading you, and we grade very easily. It's just grade based on the time that you put in and your devlog posts, and that's it, okay? Does anyone have any questions about any of these courses at all? Okay? All right, thank you for letting me indulge in some course shilling. Enrollment is always a challenge for my courses because they tend to be kind of tough. All right. My easiest course, 298, happens to be my most popular course, and so I don't think that's a coincidence. But you could also say that EECS 440 is not that hard, and that one's a little bit more niche. Okay. But speaking of niche, I want to talk about a topic that I think is really fantastic, a really beautiful topic. One of the reasons I created this course back in like 2022. This idea that it's okay to target a rare problem. It's okay to try and solve problems for a smaller community. But you have to be very thoughtful when you do this, okay? Because depending on the org that you're running and the situation you're in, you might have to shoot for a larger problem, something with a larger addressable market. But today I want to make the argument that for you, and especially for EECS 440 teams, niche can definitely be enough. For a startup, for a small team, for academics, niche can be enough, okay? So in October 2021, a bombshell announcement was made. This was, I think, on the kind of tail end of the pandemic. Mark Zuckerberg made a kind of frankly crazy decision. I can't really think of much of anything like it. His big, successful, well-known company, Facebook, would be changing its name. What did they change their name to? Meta, exactly. They changed their name to Meta. And this is not something that you do lightly because Facebook has become a brand. It's globally recognized. There's a lot of marketing, a lot of, well, I was going to say trust and brand loyalty, but I don't know if that's quite what built up. But there's a lot of value in that name, Facebook. So to change your name to Meta is a really, really, really big deal. And they kind of kept the Facebook name for the product, but the company became a lot more meta, in a word, right? They became higher level. Facebook changes company name to Meta in order to focus on what Mr. Zuckerberg believes will be their next gigantic product, the metaverse, okay? And this is a huge move for a big company. But here's the thing, if you have a big company, you need to make big moves. Small moves don't matter much to you. There's justification required for this move, right? Mr. Zuckerberg has a lot of voting power in Meta, in Facebook. But he still has to be kind of doing right by most of his investors and his consumers. So he has to explain what the metaverse is and why they're making this change. And in this very famous video, he does that. Now, I feel like one of these semesters, I'm going to click this link, and the link's going to be broken. The video is going to be removed because maybe Mr. Zuckerberg is focusing on something else, like generative AI now, right? But I want to show you this video and pay careful attention to how Mr. Zuckerberg describes this new product. He's going to describe it as being a bunch of different things. He isn't going to just call this a new gaming platform. Okay? In fact, I think gaming is almost barely mentioned. Okay? Let's watch.
We believe the metaverse will be the successor to the mobile internet. We'll be able to feel present, like we're right there with people, no matter how far apart we actually are. We'll be able to express ourselves in new, joyful, completely immersive ways. And that's going to unlock a lot of amazing new experiences. When I send my parents a video of my kids, they're going to feel like they're right in the moment with us, not peering through a little window. When you play a game with your friends, you'll feel like you're right there together in a different world, not just on your computer by yourself. And when you're in a meeting in the metaverse, it'll feel like you're right in the room together, making eye contact, having a shared sense of space, and not just looking at a grid of faces on a screen. That's what we mean by an embodied internet. Instead of looking at a screen, you're going to be in these experiences. Everything we do online today, connecting socially, entertainment, games, work, is going to be more natural and vivid. This isn't about spending more time on screens. It's about making the time that we already spend better. Screens just can't convey the full range of human expression and connection. They can't deliver that deep feeling of presence. But the next version of the internet can. That's what we should be working towards. Technology that's built around people and how we actually experience the world and interact with each other. That's what the metaverse is all about. Now, the best way to understand the metaverse is to experience it yourself. But it's a little tough because it doesn't fully exist yet. Some of the basic building blocks are here, though. And others are starting to emerge as we speak. We're starting to get a sense of how it all come together and what it could feel like. So today we're going to do something a little bit different. Rather than just focusing on this year's products like a normal keynote, we're going to talk about the future. So let's start by exploring what different kinds of metaverse experiences could feel like, starting with the most important experience of all, connecting with people. Imagine you put on your glasses or headset and you're instantly in your home space. It has parts of your physical home recreated virtually. It has things that are only possible virtually. And it has an incredibly inspiring view of whatever you find most beautiful.
Hey, are you coming?
Yeah, just gotta find something to wear. All right, perfect. Oh, hey, Mark. Hey, what's going on?
Hi.
What's up, Mark?
Whoa, we're floating in space? Who made this place? That's awesome.
Right?
Okay, right, and then it gets quite cheesy and aspirational. What did you notice about how he describes the metaverse? What is this exactly? He doesn't just describe a gaming system. I've got a question. What is the valuation of, someone name a game company, a popular, successful video game company? Yes?
Sucker Punch.
Okay, that would be Sony, okay? So Sony market cap. Sony's market cap is $133 billion. You might say maybe 75% of that, maybe $100 billion is gaming, okay? Or maybe probably a bit less than that. Maybe $75 billion is gaming, okay? And that's a very successful gaming company, one of the most successful ever. Okay, how much is Meta's market cap? Do you see what the problem for Mark Zuckerberg is? If Mark Zuckerberg creates a big new product and it is this metaverse and it's all about gaming, in fact, it's so wildly successful that it rivals the legendary PlayStation, that barely even moves the needle for Mr. Zuckerberg. That's barely going to make it into the investor report, the quarterly report. Mr. Zuckerberg can take over the gaming industry and he might not notice, okay? That's the situation. Mr. Zuckerberg has so many employees. His investors, his stock price is so large that he can't just target something as small as, air quotes, small as gaming, which itself is bigger than film, okay? In this video, you heard Mark Zuckerberg say some very telling things. He's not just talking to us customers, he's talking to investors in this video. And here's what the investors are going to hear from him, okay? Well, first of all, Mr. Zuckerberg is trying to distract from some difficult situations he's facing at the time. He's getting pulled in front of Congress. He's had some privacy scandals happen, right? Facebook has been running into issues with losing access to iOS and having their marketing streams cut, right? I got a bit ahead of myself. But you should know that Mr. Zuckerberg is also looking for a distraction. But in this talk, he says some really telling things. He's speaking to investors, and he says this is going to be about immersive video. The metaverse is going to be about experiencing video, okay, in surround with other people. What does that sound like he's about to snipe? Is there some popular big video platform that he's about to rival? Who's he taking a shot at when he says we're going to hit immersive video?
Trying to take a shot at YouTube?
He's taking a shot at YouTube. He is saying, investors, we are the next YouTube, okay? And then he goes on and he says, that's going to get investors kind of interested, okay? We're paying attention now. He then shows off what looks like a kind of corporate meeting or a meeting with friends. In fact, he disses Zoom and Microsoft Teams. He says it's going to be so much better to actually be and feel that presence with your friends and your colleagues. Instead of seeing their faces on a screen, you're going to be there, okay? He's taken a shot at corporate communications, okay? That is a very, very big market as well, okay? He's taken over Microsoft and Zoom, okay? And now we're getting really interested, okay? He says everything we do online, entertainment, games, work, it's all going to be done through the metaverse, and that's going to be us, okay? And now people are like, wow, that's crazy, right? Now we're talking some serious money, okay? Metaverse, Meta is currently 1.5 trillion bucks, right? But they might be 3 trillion if they pull this off. 5 trillion. They could absorb and become the Microsoft of the 2030s, okay? Then they say we're going to be the successor to the mobile internet, i.e., remember that iPhone moment? That is going to belong to us. We are going to be iPhone, okay? We are going to own the next version of the internet. And at that point, right, we're basically selling to everyone. The metaverse will be a product for everyone. It will sell to every market. And at that point, the investors can barely hold their excitement and they're freaking out, okay? These are the kind of things that Mr. Zuckerberg has to target. They absolutely have to target, okay? Now, the metaverse has become a bit of a meme, okay? Mr. Zuckerberg shot for the moon. He wanted to take it all, and he failed miserably, okay? At least for now, it's been a miserable, very public failure. But here's the thing. People make fun of Mark Zuckerberg for aiming for the moon. But the reality is, he doesn't have a choice. He has to aim for the moon, okay? So, you could say, hey, Mark, why don't you start a little bit more humbly? Why don't you just make an excellent version of VR chat? Doesn't that seem very reasonable? Mark, just focus for now. Just make a great VR chat, okay? He can't do that. That's not an option for him. Why? Because Meta has the $800 billion market cap, and that's way back when I made these slides years ago, okay? Now, they're over $1 trillion. They have 85,000 plus employees, okay, to fund and to keep productive, give them interesting tasks to work on, and then to fund their very impressive salaries and benefits on the West Coast, okay? A very good VR chat is not even worth Mr. Zuckerberg's time during his weekly briefing, okay? It's not even worthwhile to have a bullet point for him. So this problem of making a better, higher quality VR chat is not in Meta's weight class, okay? This is not the kind of thing that a big company like Meta is going to be effective at addressing. They don't care about this. They can succeed wildly, and it wouldn't even move their number at all. It wouldn't affect their stock at all, okay? But here's the thing. You aren't Mark Zuckerberg, okay? You aren't Mark Zuckerberg. And so I want to show you one of the coolest XR inventions I've ever seen in my life. And this is an XR invention that when I saw it, I actually couldn't believe it. I couldn't believe how simple it was, how obvious it was in retrospect, and also how important it is for the small audience whose problem it addresses. Okay, watch this. This is a smart glasses, okay, that has live captioning built in, and it allows deaf people to see what people say to them. Let's take a look. And by the way, watch their reaction when they use this thing, okay?
So this is a new way of being able to communicate and be included. No, she's naturally looking at me, but she realised that she doesn't have to look at me. She can see through the glass.
Alexa, what's the weather forecast? 23 degrees Celsius with mostly cloudy skies. Today's forecast is clouds and showers.
Hello?
Hey Josh, it's Julia. How are you doing?
Very well, thank you. How are you?
Do you want to get dinner sometime this week?
Yeah, definitely. That sounds good.
Powerful. It's powerful. The power and important for people who are hard of hearing all over the world to feel that they don't have to solely rely on liquid reading. And it's a big moment. I'm getting a real-time stream of subtitled information where ordinarily I might be behind, I might not quite catch everything, but this is giving me a real-time narrative which enables me to be informed, enables me to be involved.
Effectively, we're taking that audio stream from the microphone, from the glasses. What we're doing though is then taking those captions and putting them into augmented reality. There was just a little epiphany moment where I thought, hang on a second, he watches TV all the time with subtitles on. Why can't we subtitle the world?
it almost seems too incredibly obvious, right, when you see it. This is the XR that I care about. It's not sexy. It is not about throwing you into a digital world where you'll have unbelievable experiences. Okay, 2D video games already accomplished that, okay? This is a practical, pragmatic innovation that I feel like an EECS440 team could have made. And it is incredibly important to the people who use it, right? If you didn't get it, if you're not very familiar, right? If you're hard of hearing, you often have to use lip reading. This means that you need to constantly be watching and focusing on someone's lips to try and figure out what they're saying, what syllables they're saying, and then you can kind of guess at what they said. It's not very effective. Well, it can be, but unfortunately, you can't be looking at other things. You have to be locked on to someone's lips, and often you just can't tell what they're saying. It's a bit ambiguous, right? Your lips don't convey all the information on what you said, just some of it. You also run into problems, if you are hard of hearing, with talking to someone via a mobile device. You can't see their face. You can't lip read them. You're completely helpless. You can't even communicate over the phone. With these glasses, now that problem is in many ways kind of solved, okay? In other words, when you see these glasses, you think, well, they look a bit big and they look a bit chunky and, they're not that impressive, right? And it's just doing subtitles, right? Subtitles. What could be the big deal? This is literally giving people one of their senses back. Okay, imagine that you couldn't hear for years, and then a device came and it gave you a lot of that back. What would you pay for something like that? You'd pay a lot. In fact, you might pay everything to get that. Okay? Now, we'll talk about how much you charge for devices like this, and you need to be careful. Okay? You don't want to take advantage of people who need your product. But this is the kind of niche that is just unbelievable. The market of people that are hard of hearing is not massive, okay? It's only a fraction of the population. But you completely change their lives with your product, okay? And that's worth something too. I want to show you another really cool one. This one's a bit closer to game dev. This is the Xbox Adaptive Controller. There's much you can criticize Xbox on for the last couple decades, but one of the shining bright spots for Xbox has been their investment in accessibility and adaptive devices for trying to make sure that anyone can play games if they want to. So let's take a look at this Xbox Adaptive Controller. Have any of you seen this before? Have you heard of it? Really, really impressive stuff, right? You've got larger buttons. You've got some interesting interfaces on the side. Let's take a look.
At Xbox, we have a controller design that our fans love. However, for gamers with limited mobility or gamers who don't use both their hands, this controller design might not work best for them. Doorknobs are the worst thing ever invented. Putting on shoes, the cell phones that I use. These are the sorts of things that we don't think about until we have to. And I think about them every day. I have cerebral palsy on my entire right side. This side of the controller is fine. This side doesn't have it. As game platforms got more sophisticated, the controllers got more sophisticated, and it started to get frustrating. We designed the Xbox Adaptive Controller for feedback from the accessibility community.
The Xbox Adaptive Controller is really easy. You just plug it in, and then plug in various other devices. I can make it work for me the way it has to.
With the Xbox Adaptive Controller, a gamer can game with one hand, one foot, or one hand and their shoulder, or even one foot and their chin. And I can change it for game again.
Good. Ready? Forward. Squeeze tall. There it is. Craig Hospital is a facility for patients who've either had a spinal cord injury or a traumatic brain injury, and it's placed for their rehab. We're here on game night, and we help patients getting back in the game again.
the D-pad?
Yeah. Our role as occupational therapists is to get people back to doing. When the Xbox adaptive controller came along, acted like an Xbox controller, it just worked.
Over there.
Ooh.
On the standard Xbox controller, it's hard to press the buttons because I can't really put pressure through my hands. But then with the adaptive controller, I can use larger joysticks, larger buttons that are easier to press and reach.
Corey and his brother Zachary are twins. Before Corey's injury, Zachary gamed regularly, and that was the way they related to each other as siblings.
Who do you love playing Xbox here at Craig Hospital?
Jack.
The Xbox adaptive controller and the co-pilot feature allowed them to begin to play games together. So there's a huge social component to it.
You got that.
Yes.
They can play any game you want. I see the confidence
just burst out of them.
So this is not the kind of device you would expect to see out of a major corporation, right? With a valuation well in excess of $1 trillion, more valuable, in fact, than Meta. I think it is, at least. And yet, it is a feather in the cap of Microsoft's leadership and Xbox's leadership that they have made a special consideration. They have paid special attention to this particular niche, even though they know it's not going to sell a bunch of copies. It's not going to move the needle profit-wise for them. They still decided this is something that we should do. And as a result, Xbox gets a big reputation boost. And of course, if you are in the community that really values and makes use of this controller, then Xbox is like your number one company. You're an Xbox fan for life, and that is pretty awesome. Okay, these are use cases that I think are exceptionally beautiful, and part of it is that yes, you don't have a lot of people you're affecting, right? The market's small. It just is. Okay, and really quick before I move on with that. Apparently, it's been available for 2018. It's only cost, I think, $100. Okay, I almost guarantee you that they're selling this for no profit at all. This is probably at cost, or maybe it's even at a small loss, it looks like to me. They also have a lot of peripherals you can kind of plug in. I'm not sure if those come with it or they're sold separately or what, but you can customize stuff. A lot of hardware and software effort and talent went into making this controller. For really no hope of a profit at all. It really is incredible. Niche is enough. You have to ask yourself, do you want to sell to the world, or do you want to become someone's entire world? Okay? You are trading a large market size for immense impact for the smaller community you are able to serve. When you look at these users, you're not just giving them a fun time. You are literally changing their entire life and their perception of it and the experience they're going to have in it. You are allowing them to connect with others in a way that they literally could not before. You might be doubling the actual quality of their life with that one product, okay? One of the comments under the YouTube video for the live captioning glasses, I don't usually read the YouTube comments, for good reason, I think. But here was a fun one that I saw. It was literally, hi, I'm Mitchell, one of the founders of the XR AI glasses. Thanks for liking our video. This is one of the most profound and rewarding initiatives I've ever been involved with. There's nothing better than empowering people to enjoy a richer and more inclusive life. Myself and the team are extremely humbled and proud, okay? Hopefully, they're also wealthy because I think they deserve to be for such a great product. A quick personal anecdote. I make games, and the games I make tend to be niche, okay? I made a game called Greek Tragedy. And do you know how well Greek Tragedy sold? Now, this is where you get a reminder that I'm not a marketer. I'm just an engineer, okay? Steam, Greek Tragedy. This game sold like garbage, okay? In fact, I don't even know what my review score is because I don't have enough reviews, all right? We have sold, I think, a few thousand copies. That's not the end of the world. I didn't need it to sell very well. But, you know, it's hard. You make a game, you want it to sell well, and so people can play it, right? But here's the thing. It didn't sell that many copies, and not that many people played it, but the people who did play it, like, I was getting emails, okay? This is a weird game. It's esoteric. I knew that was the case. It's a very old school feeling game. You know, I don't have a ton of server members, right? But actually, the people who ended up playing the game really enjoyed this damn game, okay? A lot of them did. Some of them hated it, but the people who liked it really liked it. You can see them just really getting into the game at, I think this is OhioCon in Columbus, Ohio. And I actually got emails from people sending me like in-jokes and thanking me for making the game and like looking for the sequel. And I don't know if I can break it to them, but there's not going to be a sequel to this game when it sold this few copies. The characters will probably show up in other games I make, but the game is going to be a different style. We're not going to get a direct sequel, okay? So niche can be enough, all right? It was very painful not to sell many copies of Greek Tragedy. But I was very happy, and it really dulled the pain to see that the people who liked the game were really into the game. There are people out there who really appreciated my effort, and so that really dulled the pain. Here's a way to think about it, okay? When you are making a product, you can calculate social impact in a couple of different ways. Here's a way to think about it. The number of people you help is a really big deal. You want to help as many people as you possibly can. But that's not the only thing to consider. You should also consider just how much are you helping each person that you help, okay? It's a multiplication. The number of people you help multiplied by how much you are actually helping them. Consider a game like Super Mario Bros. Wonder. There are a lot of great games out there that are made to be fun. If Super Mario Bros. Wonder didn't exist, you could be playing Resident Evil or the previous Super Mario game. There's a lot of them, okay? With a game like Super Mario Bros. Wonder, with a product like this, you're helping a ton of people. It's a very popular game. People all around the world are going to play it. But the amount you're really helping them, actually, if you think about it, is not that much, right? You're helping them have a fun experience, and that's great. But they could have that fun experience with other games too. And it's not going to be the same experience, but, you know, and you're just helping them have a fun evening. And that's really valuable, but that's not the same level of value as giving someone their eyesight back or giving them their hearing back. Okay? It's just not the same. In fact, it isn't even in the same ballpark. It's not in the same universe. Okay, in terms of how much you're affecting that person. Not even close, okay? So if you look at something like these subtitle glasses, you're not going to sell too many of these, okay? The number of people who have this problem, it's just not that many. But the amount that you affect the people who buy it is absolutely obscene. It is incredible. They're going to go crazy for these glasses, and it's going to change their life immensely, okay? And so when you've got a small team, you can go for those more niche problems that everyone else has overlooked, okay? You don't have to worry about Meta creating the subtitle glasses. Why? Because the market's too small. But your startup can go and sustain yourself and grow solving a niche problem. And from there, you can grow even more. Maybe grow into more general problems if you want to keep expanding. Okay? That seems like a pretty common route, actually. Now, a warning for you. Financial sustainability is a really big thing. If you have fewer customers, you have to somehow make enough money to keep the lights on. Hopefully you're a small team, so you don't need a ton of money, but it's very tempting to say, I have fewer customers, that means my volume is down, means my expenses are higher, and that means I have to charge them more, right? You have to charge them more. You cannot look at a disabled person and say, I'm going to charge you double, triple. No, you'll pay anything. I'm going to charge you 10x the amount I would normally charge. Okay? For obvious reasons, if you do this, you're in for a world of hurt. Okay? Even though the market dynamic would suggest you should probably do this, you should not do this. Okay? And I'm going to tell you a very real story of a very infamous man. His name is, I think, Martin Shkreli, known as the Pharma Bro. And what happened to him when he decided to do this to an important drug. Okay? And I'm going to tell you about this when we come back in 5 minutes. Okay? And I just saw that the game engine architecture autograder might be looping or something. Oh, is it looping? Game engine architecture students, is this looping or is everyone just jamming hard on Linux right now? Is this actually looping? Anyone? You think it is?
I don't think it is.
Okay.
That last 7C case was just very slow.
C3, yeah, C3 is like a full playthrough of the big game, right? Yeah, that is kind of slow. That's tough. Well, yeah, good luck to everyone. Good luck to everyone. I upgraded that game. I haven't pushed it to the autograders, I don't think. But I've made the game much larger, and it now has Fog of War, and it has a post-stage like cutscene with optional objectives. It has a full dialogue system in it now. I think I'm going to show it to all the game engine architecture students tonight during lecture, and yeah, we'll see. We'll see if people can get through it. We'll see. Oh. See you in a few minutes. 4 minutes. Get some music going. Okay, let's go ahead and get back to it. So, when you are serving a smaller niche, right, especially depending on what that niche is, you lose pricing power. You can't go and squeeze your niche, or you'll run into some very big ethical questions and some very big PR issues. Martin Shkreli is known as the Pharma Bro, and partially due to his actions relating to a drug called Daraprim. Martin Shkreli purchased Daraprim from another company. This was a very important kind of anti-parasitic drug. If you had issues with this, then you needed to use this drug in order to remain healthy, in order to stay alive. What he did was he took the price up and pretty quickly raised it from $13.50 a pill to $750 per pill, which is a very noticeable, very severe price increase. His rationale was that, hey, we need to recoup the costs from the research and development, but apparently the previous company didn't really need to do that. He wasn't just trolling like your average customer. He wasn't just trolling gamers, which happens quite a lot these days. He was trolling sick people, which very quickly made him public enemy number one. And the thing is, when you piss off a very large number of people, you will discover that there's almost something that you've done wrong, and people are going to find it, okay? And they're going to nail you to a wall with that thing. Okay, everyone, from the people who are sick, the ill, to the poor, to the rich, to the powerful, everyone disliked this particular move and saw it as soulless. And so he was very quickly just showered in bad publicity, lots of headlines like this. Suddenly his company found itself in a ton of lawsuits. And he was eventually ordered to return a ton of money he had made. He was barred from the drug industry, and then some financial things he was doing was found to be illegal, and he was thrown in jail for a number of years, okay? If he hadn't spooked up such a gigantic outcry of hatred, then maybe he would have been a free man. Who knows? Maybe people wouldn't have gone digging the way that they did. But this is what can happen if you choose to overly squeeze a niche that you are serving. This also is part of why it can be a little bit harder to serve a niche, and you have to be very thoughtful about how you are going to keep your team small, keep your team efficient, and keep the lights on so that you can actually afford to serve a small niche in which you don't have pricing power despite having a really important product for that niche, okay? So I want to talk to you about a few niches, okay, because you, as part of your final project, might decide on a niche that you're going to want to target and serve. So you want to kind of know what niches are out there, what are they like, and how to find those niches. You want to identify how are those niches currently served, and this is just, in general, a really good way to kind of start thinking up Project 3 ideas. A reminder, this is EECS 440 XR for social impact, and thus far, the course has mainly just been about that first part, XR. As you enter Project 3, you're going to start thinking more about that for social impact part of the course title. And that really can be anything you want. No matter what cause you are trying to go for, you can serve it with XR. I don't care what it is, so long as it's not purely a recreational thing. Okay? And so long as you can justify it and show that there's a niche and I'm solving problems for that niche. Okay? Does anyone know what this is? It's a very famous building and institution, especially coming out of the pandemic. This is the CDC, the Center for Disease Control. During the pandemic, they had a lot they were doing to try and figure out what was going on and to try and distribute useful information as best they could. They were very well known for issuing guidance during the ambiguities of and the fog of war of the pandemic. They are also a good source for disability statistics in the United States. And they have some infograms and some data sources that they provide. And here's one of them, right? 1 in 4 adults in the United States are identified as having some sort of disability. And that's quite a big market. The USA has, I think 300 million people, maybe approaching 400 million people. And so 1 million people have some sort of disability that you could look into. Maybe we can solve some problems for them, make their life a little bit easier. The WHO, the World Health Organization, has statistics and data for the kind of globe, the entire planet at large, and more broad stats. One kind of interesting challenge is color blindness, okay? If you haven't thought about color blindness in a while, you've almost certainly heard about it. If you aren't colorblind, these two images on both sides of this slider look extremely different. If you are colorblind, there's a chance that you don't notice much of a difference as this little slider goes past. Right now, you can see very vivid pinks and purples and blues, and now they all kind of look like different shades of blues. Okay? Here is another example. These are from colorblindawareness.org. On the left here, you can see very vivid greens, and all the children are wearing shirt colors that look very different. On the right side, the background is much less vivid. It's kind of, it kind of doesn't pop the way you'd hope. And the children's shirts turn into a bunch of reds and blues. And that's pretty much all you've got, okay? You don't have the vivid yellows and oranges that you would normally see. It turns out colorblindness is a very common disability, okay? It is affecting 1 in 12 men and 1 in 200 women. It has 300 million people worldwide who are affected, and that's an enormous number. Basically, what has happened is there are defects that can affect your color detecting cells in your eyes, and they can kind of compromise their ability to do this effectively. Red-green color blindness is the most common type of color blindness, where you have something that's red and something that's green, basically the holiday Christmas colors, right? And unfortunately, those colors, I wonder if colorblind people just experience the holidays in a very different way, because everything just kind of mixes together. You don't have that red popping against the green. Yeah, a very, very, very common thing. In fact, you have to be very careful when you're designing your UI in games, because red and green are two colors you don't want to use to distinguish things from each other, because a lot of players will just not see any difference between those two colors. There are things you can do, it turns out, that are quite interesting. Here's a video on League of Legends. Actually, maybe this is Dota. I don't quite remember which. Can anyone look at this and say if this is League or Dota? Any League nerds? Which one?
It's old League.
It's old League of Legends. Okay. We got some League of Legends addicts in here. What is your ranking?
I've played in like 4 years.
4 years? Okay. You have recovered. You've made it through the cutoff period. So I never played League of Legends. I was nervous about getting addicted to it, as many of my friends did. And I played League of Legends for one match. I went through the tutorial, I learned this character, and then I went into my first match and someone stole that character from me on my team. And so I was forced to play a brand new character. I said, this is dumb. I don't know how to play this character. I quit the match and I never went back to it. So that might have been the best experience I could have had in League of Legends, because I never got addicted to it, and I was in and then I was out. Clean. Okay, League of Legends has a colorblind mode that actually became very popular because it became very good at making information readable, even to people who aren't colorblind. So let's take a look at that.
Career Strong creates opportunity for students.
Shout out to Wayne State. Cool school. Oh, what? Got an ad. Survey.
Now, for colorblind players, the early days of League of Legends,
red-green colorblind players could barely even tell the difference between their opponent's use and their own. They're called minions? What? Why do League players call the last hit CS then? God, it's like this game wants to miss me. Riot's solution was a one-size-fits-all colorblind mode which combats both deuteranopia and protanopia. Those suffering from deuteranopia have trouble seeing green cone pigments, while those with protanopia struggle with red cone pigments. This mode turns most of the red and green in the game into yellow, allowing players to differentiate between all of the abilities easily. But what Riot didn't expect was for non-colorblind players to start adopting this set.
If you watch a lot of pro player streams, you might have noticed that some of their HP bars are yellow rather than green. This is because they use a setting called colorblind mode, which was originally meant for people who have trouble seeing specific colors or who can't see colors at all. Now, by turning this on, the abilities will look much more distinguishable and they'll actually be easier to see.
You see, these colorblind changes also offer a slight competitive advantage to visibility at a high level. So all players started adopting it. Since implementing colorblind mode back in 2012, pretty much everyone who actually cares about the game has turned on this setting. Competitive players tick it. Because right? So pretty cool stuff, and it does make a big difference depending on the kind of colorblindness that you have. And it turned out to just clarify things for players in general. League of Legends is not the only company that is in game that is trying to make these kind of improvements. You also have Fortnite. In fact, games that are long-lived eventually tend to add features like this, right? Which is a pretty cool thing to see. Let me really quickly check, make sure, yep, my voice is coming through. Okay, let's take a look. Fortnite.
Over here because I want to keep it consistent. Alrighty guys, so here's what the game looks like on totally normal mode. This is no colorblind settings or anything. Then I'm gonna hop right here into my settings, and I don't know what that music is. And oh yeah, I forgot it's on the first page. Right here, colorblind mode, we're going to go to Deuteranopia, we're going to set all the way up to 10. And as you can see, this makes the game very dark. But here's Deuteranopia 10, so it's very, very dark. It has a lot of contrast. I'll go ahead and switch this down to 5 to show you guys what that looks like as well. Here we go. As you can see, it's pretty much the same thing, just a little bit less severe. Alrighty guys, so moving on here to Pro Note, and you can see it's less dark. It still has that contrast to it, but it's not quite as dark as Deuteranopia. Personally, I think this is a pretty good mix of like having that little bit of darkness there, but also having that big contrast. So you can see how much the difference is between this. So here's a picture of what Pro Note 5 looks like. As you can see, this looks really good actually. I really like this mode. And finally, here we go on to Trite Note. So this is Trite Note 10 right here. This is a very vibrant looking mode. It has this big contrast here, just like the other ones, and you can see all the shadows and everything. It's like a much more vibrant version of the game than the other modes.
Right. I do not know about this particular problem, but it does seem that the reds and the greens are being affected a lot in these different modes. So another really interesting niche, okay, if you have lost a limb, there is a phenomena that can occur to you called phantom pain. And this is a situation where your brain thinks you should have a limb where you don't have one anymore. And it can feel very uncomfortable. It can feel very tight and very kind of anxious and not very pleasant, right? This image kind of gets it across very effectively from the Advanced Pain Management Center. But your brain thinks you have a limb there, and there's no limb there, and it hurts, okay? This is a fairly commonly known phenomena, and quite an interesting one. And so it actually is part of popular culture in a few ways. You have Metal Gear Solid 5 here, the Phantom Pain, and this is affecting a large number of amputees. So if you end up losing a limb, there's a very good chance you'll experience this at some point. 1.6 million amputees in the U.S. That means the possible market here is a bit over 1 million people. That's not a lot for a company that is medium-sized even, or large-sized. And what happens here is that, right, there's pain and discomfort that kind of emanates, it radiates out of the phantom limb, which no longer exists. And I saw this, it described as this: the pathophysiology is poorly understood. This is to say that we don't really know why this is happening. It kind of intuitively makes sense that this might happen, but we don't quite understand the biology of why this is happening. But it turns out you can significantly reduce and mitigate this pain using a technique called mirror therapy. Dr. Ramachandran and his mirror box in the 90s, you can see it right here. The idea is we're going to use a mirror box and we're going to kind of trick your brain into thinking that your limb is there. Okay, that your limb is back. And so you can use one limb in order to kind of simulate the missing limb and kind of, air quotes, bring it back, at least from what your brain can perceive. And so a question then becomes, well, do we need a mirror for this, or could we augment our reality using a VR or AR device in order to trick our brain into thinking that the limb is there? And the University of Texas at Dallas actually did this. One of their research teams did this. This is the kind of cool stuff that if you become a graduate student, you might find yourself doing. This is a VR implementation of the mirror box therapy at UT Dallas. Let's see how it went.
My full name is Frederick Dean Peterson. I've been wearing a prosthetic leg for just about 17 years now. Then in 2005, I had my accident, and that put a little damper, but not as much damper as we thought it would. And so I've just been enduring since then. They said, well, you're a good candidate. Would you come back next week if we fix you for it? So I did, and got the basic training from them, took it home. It was a one-month trial. And you're supposed to do the exercises in the morning and in the evening. And in my case, the whole idea is to deal with phantom limb pain. And there's a therapy that's been done for decades called mirror therapy. And that's all this is a version of mirror therapy, trying to trick my brain into thinking I actually have a foot there. Because a lot of the phantom limb pain is just your nerve saying, I know there's supposed to be a foot there, I'm trying to find it. And so when you're tricking it to believing it's actually there, the nerves calm down.
Okay, there you go, right? And what's really cool, pretty small team, I think, just a small laboratory of graduate students making something like that and then getting to actually try it out in real deal patient scenarios. So extremely cool point, right? So why am I telling you all of this? Well, the typical path for an entrepreneur is unfortunately this. It's a very bad path, actually. The path is you build a technology, you then try and find a problem that technology solves, and then eventually you understand your problems and hopefully you can make some money and solve some problems for people. This is not the way you usually want to do it, okay, in this chain. For true entrepreneurs, okay, for serial entrepreneurs, people who actually succeed with their businesses and new startups, what you'll find is that someone who creates one startup and succeeds will almost certainly create more. And in many cases, those will also do okay. The entrepreneur's path is different, okay? First, you try and find problems. You don't know what technology you're going to use to solve them. You don't know if they can be solved. You find problems that people have, problems that have been overlooked. Maybe problems that affect a niche, and they've been overlooked because the niche is too small. The addressable market is too small. Zuckerberg doesn't care about farmers, okay? But farmers need technology too. A lot of people don't deal with farmer problems, growing crops, organizing and managing crops. Why? Because it's not sexy. It's boring. Okay? Turns out there's a big business in it, though. Not big enough for Meta, but big enough probably for you. Find problems. You then talk with people a lot, and you try and understand those problems forward and backward, okay, inside and out. And then once you know the problem and you understand the problem pretty well, then you figure out which technology would be the best fit to solve this problem, okay? Technology actually comes last in the entrepreneur's path, okay? Have you ever heard the phrase, a solution looking for a problem? A technology looking for a usage? The poster child for this is crypto, okay? Blockchain. What can you use blockchain for? For a while, I was told you could use it for anything. You can use it to store and manage your mortgages. I'm not sure why you'd want to do that. You can put your healthcare records and have them stored permanently on the blockchain. So now everyone knows what illnesses you have. And if you've got an STD, now everyone knows that. And that sounds like a horrible idea, right? Cryptocurrency was the main use case for blockchain. And we'll talk more about blockchain and kind of how it has evolved over time and how its reputation and hype wave evolved. Blockchain as a cryptocurrency makes sense if you need a way to make anonymous transactions, pseudo-anonymous ones. If you are a journalist living in a country that does not like journalists, then you have a legitimate, genuine, valuable use case for blockchain technology. That is not a very big market, though, okay? If you are selling illicit goods, illicit drugs, you have a genuine, obvious, clearly useful case for blockchain and cryptocurrency. But that's hopefully a small market. I want to say it's a small market. I don't know if I believe it is. But hopefully it's not a market that you'll ever get involved with, okay? But usually if you really have a genuine problem that you found that people have and you understand the problem, the technology is then going to reveal itself to you and be a good fit for it, okay? Instead, often we start with crypto and then we have to work really hard to try and find any problem it solves, and eventually we give up and it fails, okay? You do not want to do things this way up here. This is not the ideal way to do things. First, you want to go meet people, talk to people, find what problems people have, and then figure out what kind of technology you can build to help solve that problem. Or maybe you can take some technology off the shelf or connect different technologies in order to solve that problem. The problem with starting with technology and then trying to find a problem is that it leads to malinvestment. What is malinvestment? Well, malinvestment is when you take a bunch of resources and you spend them to try and advance something that never returns a good investment. It returns a poor ROI. For instance, you probably heard of famous Bridge to Nowhere. I think this is actually a bridge that did exist in like New Jersey or something, but it's basically kind of a phrase that is used to describe any investment that's not expected to return a good, it's not to give a return. And a good return can come in the form of money. It can come in the form of social impact. So, for instance, the sidewalks that our government paves don't give an obvious monetary ROI, return on investment. But everyone agrees it's probably a good idea that we spend that money. So the investment is still considered good. That's not malinvestment. If you build an entire city full of glorious, beautiful sidewalks and then no one moves in, that is probably malinvestment, okay? If you dump trillions of dollars into data centers for generative AI, and then generative AI doesn't solve any problems, that is malinvestment. Now, a lot of people think that's happening. I'm like 50-50 on it because I actually love using AI to learn new things. I really don't like it to generate assets. But I found it to be an incredible Google search engine for learning new stuff quickly. Maybe you found something similar. I really enjoy it. I love to learn new stuff. It helped me get very good at Blender very fast. Helped explain things to me when the documentation was crappy. So I don't know if Gen AI is going to be a big batch of malinvestment. It feels like it's partially this. People built it, now they're trying to use and jam AI into everything. But it felt like a lot of AI was also down here. Like there were actually genuine problems. I can't find this darn documentation or it's written poorly, and now I get a really good summary of it with examples. That usually doesn't lie to me, but sometimes does. I don't know. I'm not sure what it's going to turn into. I think that's why everyone is so up in the air on AI in a way that they weren't so up in the air with crypto. I think a lot of people kind of poo-pooed crypto. I think they were mostly right. Mostly, not 100% right to do so. AI, it's like, man, no one can agree. But anyway, so this is how it tends to go. I want to show you a very fun example of a garbage entrepreneurial effort, okay? And it's the team worked really hard. It's garbage because a technology was built that ended up not solving any problems. This is the famous example of Juicero. What some people say is just the poster child of the hubris of kind of pre-pandemic easy money Silicon Valley, where you could get money for any crappy idea. Okay, investors would just dump money on you for nothing at all. Okay, let's take a look. This is the trailer for Juicero. I'm surprised it hasn't been taken down yet. But let's watch this trailer and take note of what problems the Juicero product solves. I think it's actually a pretty decent trailer, but pay careful attention to the problems they claim to be solving, and you might notice some issues, okay? Let's take a look.
Making juice is easy. Start by taking a stroll down to the neighborhood farmer's market. Buy about $50 worth of organic fruits and vegetables. Don't forget to bring a tote bag. Tote bags?
No, we'll just carry it.
Did you forget your tote?
Wash your fruits and vegetables. Cut them, chop them, wash them again, peel them.
I think this peel is broken.
Dig your juicer out from the back of your cupboard. Realize there's still a part missing. Find it. Figure out how to put it all together, then juice. And enjoy. Oh, but did you think you were done? Because you're not. Now you've made a big old mess that you have to clean up, the machine, the countertop, pretty much your whole kitchen.
You can make a pizza and anything.
Alright, so making juice isn't easy at all. It's actually a huge pain. But what if it didn't have to be?
What is this?
It's a Juicero.
I'm sorry, I don't know that word means.
It's a
Juicero. Okay, define it for me.
Juicero, the best juice ever. What comes out of the Juicero is so fresh that it shouldn't even be called juice. It should just be called, I don't know, squash produce, because that's what it is. Our founder, Doug, is straight up made of juice.
Literally, there's juice in my veins.
Doug and the Juicero team have taken care of everything. Not just the washing, the peeling, and the chopping, but the growing, the harvesting, the washing, the refrigerated, transport, the inspecting. Did we mention the washing, the packaging, and finally delivering to your house? And we haven't even gotten to the most genius part yet. There's nothing to clean. No mess whatsoever. It's so easy that it makes the old way of juicing seem, well, old.
Why did I give up other stuff?
Who cares? That's our past life. This is our new life.
Juicero. Wow. The easiest, freshest, most delicious way to get juice.
Okay. I really love this moment in the trailer when the Juicero sneaks into this person's house. And it's just like he turns around and it's like, what on earth? It's like an alien just kind of swooped in. Okay. What do you think of the trailer? I think it's kind of cheesy and a bit cringe, but what do you think? Did it sell you on a Juicero? If you were a juice enthusiast, would you consider it? Getting a no in the corner? I can't tell. You say yes, you would consider it. You said no? Wow, being very harsh. One of the reasons I think this is a decent trailer is that they do a good job of selling just how much of a pain it is to make your own juice if you really want to go all from scratch. The thing, though, is that it's pulling a little bit of a straw man here. Okay, here's the situation, all right? Here's the idea. In 2015, the idea was Internet of Things is a big hype wave. It's the new technology, right? Soon everything in your home is going to have a Wi-Fi card, and it's going to report itself to you via an app. You'll be able to schedule things, all right? It's going to be this high-tech way to do everything. So what about a juicer? okay? And thus you have Juicero, okay? But entrepreneurship and having an impact is about the problems that you solve. It's not about having a great trailer. It is not about putting a Wi-Fi card into every last thing, all right? So the question is, what problems does the Juicero solve? What would you say are the problems it solves? What would you put on the back of the box? This improves your life because X. X, Y, and Z. What are they? Yeah.
Honestly, I think cleaning's the only one I can.
Cleaning. Okay, cleaning is a bit easier. Maybe. Okay? All right. Cleaning is a bit easier. Maybe it's convenient. Maybe you have this shipped to you. Okay? They arrive in bags, so you don't have to go to the farmer's market. What else? You don't have to squeeze it yourself. Okay? Maybe, you're getting arthritis. You're struggling to do this kind of stuff. I don't know, right? It's not exactly obvious. You could say this solves the problem of juice pressing quality, right? Machinery within the Juicero is going to press it in such a way that you get improved taste, or at least you keep the taste and nutritional value that other juicers might lose, okay? There's a problem with this. So Bloomberg had a very famous article in which their investigative reporter discovered that the Juicero bag could actually just be squeezed by hand. And I think they did some blind tests, and no one could actually figure out which of the two cups was the Juicero squeezed one and which one was the hand squeezed one. That kind of leads you to wonder, well, wait a second, what exactly is this machine for? Okay, if you can just squeeze it yourself and it's not even that hard. So it doesn't solve the problem of juice pressing quality. The actual final product doesn't change in quality based on whether the machine squeezed it or whether you did, a human did. Maybe it's the packets, it's the sourcing, okay? Maybe it solves the problem of raw organic juice availability. But that's not really the case, okay? Raw juice has been available in a very convenient, easy to clean format for a long time, right? Just look at this products. Like I just went to, I think, my local Meijer's website, and I saw a bunch of different products that they had. And, cleaning is not exactly a problem when you just have a bottle. You just recycle the bottle. Maybe you wash it out. But you do the same thing to the Juicero bag if you wanted to recycle that, okay? So what problem exactly is this solving for people? Does it look cool in the kitchen? Is it a conversation piece? That might be the only thing it is solving, okay? Here's the situation. The team said, I want to make my own high-tech juicer. We will justify it later. And unfortunately for them, they never could. Sometimes you get lucky and the technology you want to make happens to have a good fit in the market. But here, the technology we wanted to make hadn't been made by other people yet. And part of it is because there was no point to making a juicer like this, and there never has been, okay? The reporter who broke Juicero's back came back for the anniversary of Juicero, I think 10 years later, and gave a little retrospective article on that product. And here's what Huet had to say. You can have this idea with the best of intentions and a lofty vision for what you'd like to create. And you end up creating this beautiful, strong, gleaming machine, and you somehow lose sight of the fact that the machine is not needed for its intended main purpose, which is getting good juice. That problem wasn't a problem. It was already solved. It was solved in less sexy ways, okay? And thus, all that investor money went to waste. $120 million in funding was received and used by Juicero, solving a problem that doesn't exist, okay? Now do you understand why every technologist and computer scientist, at least for a long time, wanted to go to Silicon Valley? When every shitty idea was getting hundreds of millions of dollars thrown at it. Doesn't sound too bad, does it? because the investors lost money and the public lost faith in our technology sector. But you know who didn't lose? The team, okay? The founder still got a big, nice salary for a few years using that investor money. Money which could have and should have gone to actually useful companies, producing innovations that actually affect people's lives. But nope, instead it went to this, crappy idea. And, well, some people made out. There's this really strong distrust, it seems, across our society in Silicon Valley tech bro types. And this is part of the reason why. Money that should have maybe gone into constructing a hospital or funding a startup, pursuing life-saving medicine, instead went to paying for someone's vanity project and, funding a privileged team for luxurious salaries for a few years. Okay? And that kind of stuff, when it happens often, kind of makes you cynical, doesn't it? And you can kind of understand why someone would be cynical about Silicon Valley after seeing a few stories like this, okay? So what I ask of you, okay, is that when you are working your entrepreneurial magic, always start with the people and the problem. Understand the problem and then turn to the technology for solutions, okay? Find a problem and understand it, okay? Let's think about something XR related. I think it's actually a very sad thing that this course puts the technology before the problems. In this course on Project 3, you will, unfortunately, need to use XR to solve the problem. Why is this unfortunate? Because again, the real entrepreneur's path is to start with the problem and then use the most prudent and efficient technology to solve it. That may or may not be XR. In this course, it has to be XR because I have to grade you on this topic. Okay, that's the only reason this is the case. But look at this, visual impairment, okay? Some solutions to visual impairment. The American Foundation for the Blind recommends an Amazon Basics microwave as one of the best utilities for your kitchen if you are blind. Look at this microwave. Can you tell me what makes it this sexy, luxurious product that only Silicon Valley could come up with? This is a crazy cool product, isn't it? It's just innovative in every way, right? Well, no. This is just an Amazon Basics microwave. It's not that expensive. There's nothing very fancy about it. No one is going to fall in love with this microwave. No one in Silicon Valley is going to throw $100 million for you to invent this microwave. But you know who does love this product? Blind people. Do you know why? One simple reason. It has Alexa voice integration, i.e., you can use it without having to press the buttons. Okay? You grab the big handle, which is easy to find even if you're blind. You open it up, you put the thing in, you say, Alexa, give me 5 minutes of heating, okay, of cooking. And it works. It makes a beep when it's done. It's easy to open and get your stuff, and it's done. It's fantastic, okay? A prudent, unsexy product wins the day again, okay? So, Alexa, reheat 1 cup of coffee. It just works, and it's $60. Completely ridiculous. We don't need to throw $100 million at this problem. We can just understand the problem as it actually is, and then there's an existing technology that solves the problem effectively. Boom. Good. We actually helped people, and we don't have to charge now $200 for this product. You know why we don't have to charge $200 for this product? Because we didn't burn $100 million of investors' money trying to make it. All right? EECS 495 is a really cool course. It's software for access, and it's all about this kind of innovation. Typically, it's a little bit different from this course. This course allows you to choose what niche you want to target and serve. In this course, you will be introduced to someone, a real person, who has a certain challenge they're facing, and then you and the entire class will be coming up with interesting technological solutions for that problem. But a big part of this course is understanding what the problem is, and that will lead you to interesting solutions and technologies that might solve it, okay? Now, you can check out that course if you want to. It's another capstone course. It will not be an upper-level CS. A lot of people think if you take a second capstone, it becomes an upper-level CS. That's not how this works, okay? So here's the takeaway for today, and the thing I want you to remember long-term, okay? Don't worry about scaling. Everyone cares about scaling. Everyone thinks all about it. It's sexy. It's exciting. Everyone wants to turn their startup into the next Meta or Apple or Microsoft, okay? But the thing is, you don't have to worry about scaling right away, okay? Don't worry about changing the world. Explore the world. Talk to people and find a niche first. You can always expand it later, okay? And that niche for your small startup team, it will be enough. You can always expand later and take over the world if you want to later, okay? But this is how you should do it. Niche can be enough. And I think these days, people are getting sick of these big companies, these big teams, these big AAA game studios that take forever to make something that feels like slop, okay? I think we are entering the age of the indie and the age of the small team. The technologies and the tools and the knowledge you need is all out there. Often it's there for cheap, okay? And you just need a good idea. You need to do what no one will do at Meta. You need to go find and talk to actual human beings, okay? Go talk to some rural people. No one serves rural communities, okay? It's not fun. It's not exciting. It's not romantic. That means you have an entrepreneurial opportunity. Okay? Go find disciplines, sewer management, that are just the least cool things, all right, that no one wants to make a product for. You go make a product for them. Oops, now you're a multimillionaire. And now you can go attack other more interesting problems with the resources you have earned by solving problems that real deal people have. Okay? That's my recommendation to you. Do you know why it is so hard to make a financially sustainable video game these days? Because everyone and their brothers and sisters wants to make a video game. Why? Because it's fun to do so. It teaches you a lot. You grow as a person when you make video games. The problem, though, is that video games are a terrible business unless you have a cash cow franchise like EA does, like Activision does, like a lot of our big studios do. And so, okay, that's why video game development is a hard business. It's a great, amazing thing. It's a great art form, but it's a tough business, all right? If you want to make money, if you're serious about ROI for yourself and for others, you need to go looking elsewhere, and you need to look at the least sexy places you could find. Because there you'll find people who have serious problems. They have money that they're willing to give to people who can solve those problems, and you will have no competition at all. You will have a monopoly on those problems and the solutions to them. Okay? So keep this in mind. It actually is very exciting in a way. If you are feeling hopeless, like how do I compete, how do I stand out, you might be trying to solve the wrong problem. You might be trying to solve a problem that 1,000 people have already solved. So try and find a problem that no one has solved. And you do that by looking in places no one has looked. Okay? I remember, I can't get them out of my head. I think there was an Ann Arbor company called Farm Logs, which was actually a pretty big deal. And I remember them at my career fair. Here it is, my career fair at University of Michigan when I was walking through, okay? And it was a startup that was simply using technology to help farmers track their crops and their yields and their planting and their patterns and, what they're going to do. And that was it. Yeah, it was that simple, okay? And it worked out really, really well for them. I think they were purchased by farms.com, and they ended up actually making a lot of money for their founders as a result, I think. So anyway, all right. Try and keep this in mind. Niche can be enough. You don't have to solve gigantic problems. Find impactful problems that are impactful for a smaller group, and you can make a good business out of that, become a great entrepreneur out of that, okay? Anyone have any questions or comments? We got 1 minute left. All right, everyone. Thanks for coming and hanging out with me. When is our next video? Does anyone know? It's coming up in a couple. It's going to be next week, Wednesday. Okay, we'll do our 4th film. On Wednesday, we're going to start talking about games and education. Some of those really fun, higher level topics. We're going to play a very famous educational game. And I hope you'll look forward to it. Good luck to all of you finishing up your P2 Gold for Wednesday. Remember, you don't have to get everything perfect. We're not looking for perfection, but you want to try and hit as many of those tasks as you can. And having a task in a rough form is much better than missing it completely. Okay? So good luck. Have fun. GG. I will be here from 6 to 8 p.m. tonight. Help you finish some of those gold tasks. And I'll see you Wednesday. Okay? See you later. Okay. And everyone watching online, I will see you later as well. Take care. Bye-bye.